Hi, everyone, and welcome to another Space Snacks. I'm here with Holly Griffith. Hi, Holly. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. We had a little bit of technical issues, but we've worked it out, and I am so glad that we did because I have been super excited to talk to you because you're in Houston and you work at Johnson Space Center,
I do.
and I can't wait to get all into that. So tell our audience a little bit about you and your background.
Okay. My background with respect to space is I'm a mechanical engineer. That's my degree. I've worked at Johnson Space Center since 2004. I started as a flight controller for the space shuttle in the electrical power systems. Once the shuttle program ended, I actually moved over to the ISS program. I was a flight controller there as well. I was an operational support officer, an OSO, it's called. We dealt with maintenance and mechanisms and a lot of IFMs or in-flight maintenance. So anytime anything would break, we were kind of the handy men and women, the handy persons for the station. And then I left NASA for a little while. I left for about 3 years, and I missed it so much. I came back in 2015. I worked on the environmental systems for Orion. Then I moved over to the electrical systems for Orion. And currently I'm working on the electrical power systems for the lunar lander. So I've done a lot. I moved around a lot. And I don't know, this is my three, fifth space vehicle, I think. Fifth spaceship
Wow,
that I've worked on. So it's pretty cool.
that is really cool. Have you always been into space? Did you want to work in as a mechanical engineer? You could have been in anything. So,
This is the only reason I became a mechanical engineer, was to work in space. I mean, it's the only thing I've ever wanted to do. I'm a big sci-fi fan, big, Star Trek, Star Wars. And so I'm like, I want to do that. I want, you see people in space. And so I was like, what can I do to put people in space? Namely me, but if not me, then, humanity in general. So, um,
wow, I love that. So, do you remember how old you were when you first saw Star Wars or Star Trek or any of that, and you were like, "Whoa, I've got to
no,
do that."
no, I don't, because Star Wars came out the year before I was born, the
Mhm.
first movie, and I guess we had, one of those old school VCRs, and we got the tape. So at some point, and my dad showed it to me, and so and then Star Trek was just the original series at the time, in the '80s, and so or in the early '80s, and so whenever when those would be on TV, we'd watch those. So I
Oh,
don't remember. It was just always there.
it was always there. So, do you come from a family that is into space?
My dad was very much so. He had a telescope, and I remember when I was real young, like in the early '80s, at some point, Halley's Comet was,
Yes.
and so we had this telescope, and so he would take it out, and we would look at Halley's Comet, and we'd go outside and watch meteor showers, and things like that. And so he was a real sci-fi science person, and he's the one who really got me into it, and I'm very thankful for that, because
Same.
he really
That's exactly the same as me and my dad. Sci-fi, science, loved it, encouraged me.
it made
Bought me my first telescope.
Yeah, it makes such a difference, doesn't it, to have a support from like a father figure, or a man figure, because it's, I don't know, to get the support from someone like that, because in this industry, there's not, you don't see that as often. And so growing up, whenever you have that from such an early age, and it's ingrained into you, like this is just what's supposed to happen and how it's supposed to be. It's you don't and then you get older, and it's like, yeah, it's normal. And so you don't I think maybe that as much of that insecurity that other women have, and
Yep.
that's sad that that not everyone has that. I feel so lucky that I that I had that support from so early on.
Me too. I mean, my dad never told me I couldn't do anything. And he was just
Exactly.
like, "Oh, you want to fly? Not a
Yeah.
problem. You want to go to space? Yeah, we can make that happen." Like, it was
No,
never a question.
funny because my dad, because I wanted to be a pilot, or I wanted to take pilot's lessons, flying lessons, and my dad actually would bring me and paid for them behind my mom's back because she didn't want me to do it. She was, they're dangerous, you're gonna die, and all this stuff. And so he actually did it, and we didn't tell her.
Oh, your dad and my dad are kindred spirits, because my mom was the same way, more kind of protective, more traditional. And my dad was like, yeah, you want to fly? Sign me up for the Civil Air Patrol, and, bought me a Rambo knife, and just was
That's
like,
awesome. That's awesome. That's so cool. I love hearing stories like that. I love hearing stories like that.
Yeah, I used to build. My dad was great because he would take me to the model store and would let me just be like, pick out any model you want to make. And so from an early on age, I was building model airplanes. And
oh, that's so cool.
yeah.
Cool.
And so did you want to be an astronaut and go
early on, that was the goal. It's early on, and then it's kind of a well, I guess it's kind of a difficult thing to get into.
Yeah. Well, if you could go anywhere, where would you want to go? Would you want to go to the ISS? Especially since you know so much from behind the scenes. Would you want to go to the ISS? Would you want to go to the moon? Would you want to go to Mars?
So I go to ISS for like a week. I could not do like the 6 months thing or the year thing. I think the moon would be fun. Mars, no.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No.
But so you grew up with this dream, and now you ended up actually at Johnson Space Center. I mean, that's like the holy grail of space. And so first of all, your flight controller, right? That's just the name sounds amazing. What does a flight controller do?
It was like the hitting, winning the lottery whenever, because I was like, I'll do anything when I started applying for jobs. I was like, I don't care. I mean, I'll change out the vending machines. It was like, I'll whatever job, I just want to be there. And so when I got the, interview and that was one of them, I'm like, wait, no, like, because I just never thought, I thought I'd be like in an office somewhere, like in some back corner, just with a calculator, just crunching numbers all day, and those jobs are very important, and we need those people, and we have them, and they're very good at it, and thankfully so. That's not the type of job for me, but I was like, I'll still do it, but just because I'm working in human spaceflight, right? And so when I interviewed, when I got the call to interview for that, I was like, wait, what? This is real? And so, and then they made me an offer, and I'm like, at some point, I'm going to wake up, or someone's going to be like, but what's his face is going to show up and be like, all right, it's a prank. And, but it was real. And so, yeah, it was amazing. And you just got to see such a, just literally how everything works, the operations of it all, the process, the mission, not the mission design with respect to the vehicle itself, but how the mission starts, how you plan for, to stack the vehicle together, from the previous flight, and then pull it out to the pad, and then how the crew is trained to do what they're going to do, mission objectives, and then you launch, and then it happens, and then if anything changes or goes wrong, it's like real time. You have to be able to make all of those changes, within an hour, or 6 hours or 12 hours or a day, and just be ready. And it's constantly changing because things are constantly, I don't want to say going wrong, but it's just, things happen. And so, and things change, and
that's okay. Wow. And so it reminds me of when I watched Apollo 13, and then something went wrong, and then they said, okay, you, the group of people, come here and fix this, figure it out.
For real. For real.
Yeah.
I mean, because you're there, well, the crew's up there, and it's here is, and it's almost, it's very complicated, and it is hard, but in a way it's almost simple, because it's like, because you're limited, it's like, well, this is what we have. So because because there's so many options that are like kind of taken away, it's like you're not wasting your time with, oh my God, I have this and this and this and this. It's like, nope, this is what we have. Let's get to work and go with it. And so it's kind of freeing in a way, like, okay, I got this, and I can do it.
Oh, there's so many questions that I have.
Oh, I love talking about it. It was the best job in the world.
So, but now you went from like taking something like the shuttle and working on that, and then the International Space Station, but now you're looking at the future and landing on the moon again. And so what's that like? How is that? Are you excited about how that's all gonna come together?
Yeah, I am. It's just like,
I know that they just announced the 3, contracts, but from your perspective at Johnson, how do you, in your new job, how do you fit into that?
I'm working with that and different technologies. And so we're looking at proposals and, so like new technologies and new proposals. And it's basically similar to kind of how we've always done things, not exactly the same, but okay, you want to limit, obviously you want costs to be down, you want weight to be down, and you want performance to be really, really good. So we're looking at all of the options, and there's going to be tests and analysis. And so that's what we're looking at. And I can't say too much.
Yeah, I know.
Programs always work. You have some people and they have ideas, and it's like, here's my idea, group A, B, and C, and you take them all and you look at what you have to work with, and then you decide.
One of the things that I find interesting about, in career paths and how things change, I want to get a little bit into, because there's so many things I want to cover. I definitely got to get to food, because you've done, of course, because as a mechanical engineer and your thought of what you were going to be doing and being open to anything, but you've had a really interesting career because you've worked on a bunch of different stuff. And you've got to meet and interact with really interesting individuals across the whole sector.
Oh, absolutely. There was one meeting where, and I was kind of new. I'd been there like a year or so, and the people they weren't arguing, but there had been a failure pre-launch, and we were deciding if we were go for launch or not, and people were going back and forth, and I'm just kind of sitting in the back of the room, and just randomly, like, John Young walks in, right? and he sits next to me, and I'm like, John Young, who walked on the moon and commanded the first space shuttle flight, and I'm like, oh my God. and as people are making comments and throughout the meeting, he just keeps leaning over to me and like, oh, this person, and just making these comments like just out of nowhere, and I'm like, oh my God, what is this is surreal. This does not happen in real life. It was
Isn't that funny?
in my life, but I will never forget it. So yeah.
And that's the interesting thing, is that, like, again, you work with so many different people. And so when you think about food in space, I know that you've had some opportunities to actually look at space food. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, I actually have samples here. So when I was in OSO, the ISS flight control position. Part of our job was training astronauts, and also as a shuttle flight controller, we did that too. But for OSO, when you train astronauts, you also have to train in what you're training the astronauts in, because you have to know how to do it yourself. So, I got to keep some of the samples of the space food. So let's see. I'm gonna have to put my glasses on for this. I'm sorry. Yeah. So here is some granola with blueberries. See. And so the food it's dehydrated, right? So they take out all the water before they launch it, because that way it weighs less, and it just stays, I don't want to say fresher, but it's easier to just save for later, last longer. And then there's this little tip on the end. And so they have a thing on orbit, a device called the PWD, potable water device. And they hook this part up, and the water comes in, and they rehydrate it. And then your granola with blueberries is ready to eat. And so that's one example. They also have mashed potatoes. Yeah. And then you see they even have the Velcro on the back. So that, because in space, if they let it go, it doesn't stay where you want it to. So they stick it to the wall. They do the same with things like with drinks. So here's some coffee. Here's one with an actual straw on it. This is an orange mango drink. And here's the straw, you can see. Let's see, they have, here's one more. Applesauce. So, and it's got the Velcro.
Wow. So, okay, did you actually have you ever tried any of it?
I did. They have a food tasting center, I forget the name, but place at JSC, food lab. And employees can go. They can go taste food. And it's very controlled. And you get your food, and it's in this little cup, and they have the gloves on, and you're sitting, and they kind of hand it to you, and you eat it, and then you have the form to fill out afterwards. And it's just very strict, and it wasn't good. It was etouffee, shrimp etouffee, and I'm from South Louisiana, Cajun, and so I'm like, oh man, that was not great etouffee. But I'm picky, so maybe they're.
Aaron says, I want to try that orange mango drink. It made me think of Tang,
Hey, maybe it could be Tang. I don't know.
I don't know.
NASA did not invent it. They inadvertently popularized it, but they didn't invent it.
So Aaron and I may need to come visit you and see if we can get sneak into the tasting lab there and see that, because wow.
I could get fired for that.
Well, then we won't. Nothing that will get you fired. When you're thinking about that, though, this whole idea that you're like, yeah, well, I was working with astronauts. And I know everybody listening is like, oh, that's so cool that you just, you were helping them get prepared and ready, but also having to know all the systems, like on the International Space Station, because if something goes wrong, you've got to fix it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we were, with OSO, we were responsible for things like internal systems. So, the ISS was broken up. You had, like shuttle, you have your electrical power systems, you have your environmental control systems, you have your thermal control systems. And so, we weren't responsible for something like if one of the, the batteries, broke or something, and there was that wasn't us. They had other groups that did that. We were responsible for things like, and this was things inside the vehicle, but, and this was and people in our group were specialists on each different thing. So mine was actually the toilet, the waste control, WCS. The waste.
Wait,
Yeah.
but everybody knows about the space toilet. That's awesome.
Yes, that was one of my specialties, was the space toilet. So I had to go and train in the simulator in Building 9 with all the mock-ups on the space toilet simulator and train the crews and stuff to use the space toilet. Yeah.
Wait, hold it, Holly. So you're telling me that you've actually used the space toilet?
No, I didn't use it. No, not
in the mock-up. You didn't get to the mock-up didn't work. That kind of
no. You have to. You just, there's like a camera and you can, kind of shows you how to position yourself to correctly.
No, the toilet on the International Space Station did make headlines because it did break at one time. Were you?
One time. Oh, that thing broke all the time.
So was that when you were doing it? Did you have to fix it?
I mean, we'd come up with procedures to fix
it.
For the. And
wow.
In the mock-ups and things.
I feel like that people are really interested in that. And so, and those of you who are listening, if you have a question for Holly, please put it in the chat and we'll get to it. But that's
Cheryl. Hi, Aunt Cheryl. Thank you.
That's such a conversation thing too. Just the fact that, how do you get trained on these systems? How do you get, how to fix them if something goes wrong and all of those things?
Years. I mean, for flight control, it takes years. Literally, when I started with shuttle, it was like my first year was just, they were very, very, very serious about, we want you to do nothing but train. And it was literally like, a stack of books and just read and learn your systems. And if something else came up, they would check in and be like, look, I see you have this other thing on your calendar. Is this getting in the way of your training? They made sure to make, that training was your priority, that you learned, you studied and you learned, because they wanted you to learn, to know your system, because if you didn't, then you weren't going to go very far in the group. And so, so it took a long time, and they invested a lot of time in people, and in people, learning their system and training and things like simulations and OJT. So we would follow other senior group members around and watch what they did and how they with other flight controllers or the crew, and how, and sit with them on console and see how they've solved problems and worked through things and just did things. And so there was a lot of that.
Oh, that's amazing. But now, Holly, you're one of the senior members.
I know, and it's so scary.
No, you made it. You did it.
How did that
I mean, that's a testament to, you and your skills and your ability to do all of that. And to some extent, I think it even goes back to that legacy of your father and those early interactions of, like you said, of confidence and love for science and math and figuring things out.
Yes. He would always, he was very into computers. And so from early on, we had like a Commodore 64 or something. And then, we'd upgrade. But I mean, I would be like 10 and playing a computer game or doing something. And I'd be like, go in the living room and be like, Dad, the computer broke. And he'd be like, well, go fix it. And I'm like, no, Dad. And he's like, oh, I'm not doing anything. And so, I'd go do some stuff and work with it and whatever. And then, I wouldn't say anything for a while, and he'd come in the computer room and he'd be like, well, and I'd kind of be like not want to admit it. Like I knew I could do it.
I love it, because my dad was also into computers, and we had that Commodore 64. And I'm a little bit older than you. So I remember my dad having stacks of punch cards because he was really early computers.
Yes. Oh, wow. Punch cards. Oh, my gosh.
I know. And so we've got a question from Ethan that says, how long before you actually got to work on a project or system? So you were training a lot in the beginning, but do you remember when they finally said, You're good. Come on in here. And
So, yeah, so it took me, gosh, when did I get certified? So you can't work on console until you get certified. When you get certified depends on a few things. It depends on how many people are ahead of you in the flow. So if someone's ahead of you in your training flow, then their priority for getting all of the sims and all of the other different training things. So you have to wait. So there's that, and then there's also just your own performance. How well are you doing? So if you have like marks along the way, benchmarks to see, okay, kind of test out your progress. And if you do well in those, then you go faster. And if you do, I don't want to say not so well, but if you need more time, then you need more time. So there was a couple of people ahead of me in my flows. So it took me probably a couple of years before I worked my first flight. I started in 2004, and I think my first flight was like 1:15, 16.
wow,
Something like that. So yeah, it was right after I started right before return to flight. So
I was going to say, yeah, because you would have been Columbia when you started. Yeah.
For Columbia.
Right. Mm-hmm. So many questions. First of all, if you could be on the ISS or on the moon, what would you want to eat there if you could eat anything? And
I mean, like, are we talking real food or space?
Real food. We're talking real food. If we could figure this out, what would you want to eat?
Am I cooking it, or is someone who can
Well, that depends, Holly. Are you a good cook?
No.
Okay, somebody else is cooking it.
My husband. Probably macaroni and cheese. Just that's my go-to.
Oh,
I love macaroni. I could eat it.
Yes. I love how macaroni and cheese has evolved from when I was a kid, when it was simple, to now these just meats and just artisan cheeses. And
there's whole restaurants that's just macaroni and cheese. And I have to like actively not go to them because it will not end well.
Oh, I hear you. And I recently had to switch to gluten-free. So it's kind of thrown all of my love of pasta and like mac and cheese and all of that into a little bit of tailspin. But luckily, more gluten-free macaronis and things are coming online. So
you have more options.
So if you could have your favorite mac and cheese dish prepared by somebody else, and you could eat that in space, who would you want to eat it with and why?
Alive or dead? Does it matter? I mean,
alive or dead, it doesn't matter. Just who would you like to be with? Say that again?
Carrie Fisher. Carrie Fisher. Yes.
So why Carrie Fisher?
So first of all, I'm so I'm a Star Wars nut, and Princess Leia is just my absolute favorite character of all time. But Carrie Fisher herself was just a brilliant woman. She was a brilliant writer. People don't know that. And she just had an amazing attitude. She went through a lot in life. She struggled with mental illness, bipolar disorder, and the way she handled it, she just really, I don't know, she was an inspiration for a lot of people, not only through her characters, but then also how she handled, her real life issues. A lot of people, if something like that had happened to them, they felt ashamed about it. And then once she opened up and she was just like, look, this is me. It's who I am. It is what it is. I think she kind of helped them, and she was just funny. She had such a great sense of humor. So
talented.
Yeah, so talented. Her books are amazing. Her books are funny.
I think Postcards from the Edge, I think that's the title of the one that where she really kind of talks about some of the mental illness, and a lot of people don't realize just how good of a writer she was. And
yeah, brilliant with words, just brilliant, and so
yeah,
fun.
and so thoughtful. And I mean, she was what, 17, 18 when she shot Star Wars, and it became this mega hit. And just like you said, dealing with all of that comes with it. So when you chose her, I was like, yes, because I think she's also amazing. And so for the May 4th, I did my impression of her, right? Like kind of my hair and puffs and stuff. And I noticed that you have the most amazing collection behind you. Could you kind of just tell us a little bit about what's going on back there?
Oh, this is my Star Wars room. So I'm a collector. Like I said, I'm a Star Wars nut. I'm a collector. I collect mostly Princess Leia stuff. So this is, let's see. I haven't met her actually. A friend of mine from work got this for me, but I do have her autograph. So I have this that actually says "Love to Holly," Carrie Fisher.
That's
That's
awesome.
that's one of my favorites. And then my other favorite is this is actually from 1977, and it's her action figure unopened in the box. So those are probably my two favorite things.
That is fantastic. I love it. Oh my goodness. And so early on, did you start collecting, or was that more when you got older? Do you remember collecting stuff as a kid?
I've always collected. I didn't know I was collecting when I was younger. Like these books, the majority of these books right here are from like probably the 90s. I have a bed right here, and the sheets are my sheets on it from Empire Strikes Back from the 80s. So I just kept a lot of stuff. I just don't throw a lot of stuff away. And then as I got older, then I started, collecting.
Well, I was 7 when Star Wars came out, and then by the time Return of the Jedi and all that stuff, I was 13. So I had all of this stuff. I had the movie posters on my wall. And as a kid, you didn't, I was careless, and I would move them, and then they would rip and all of this stuff. And I look back at that and I'm like, no, why did I not keep? Because back then, if you went to the movie theater, they would just give you them when they were going to throw them out. And so I would go to the local. I remember going and getting at 12 and 13. And, this is 80, 81, 82, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, and Indiana Jones, all of those things. And I had them all over my wall. And I'm like, what was I thinking? But I do still have my collector Topps cards that I had from when I was a kid, and getting those. And yeah. Yeah, awesome. In fact, I'm gonna find. I don't know if you have any of those Topps cards, but I'm gonna find a Princess Leia one, and I'm gonna send it to you because I am totally going to. And so I have a bunch of the ones from. I don't have any of the Star Wars ones, but I have the Return of the Jedi ones. And so yes, I'm gonna find myself a Carrie Fisher to send to you.
That's so sweet. That's so sweet.
Yeah.
But let me show you one more cool thing, since we're kind of doing a spacing. It's not Princess Leia, but
I'm gonna go see if I can grab my cards.
This is a cool thing that Lucasfilm and so look at this patch. It's from ISS National Lab, and it's in the shape of the Millennium Falcon, and it's got the
Oh, that's awesome. Slide it a little bit to your left.
Like that?
Yes, so we can see the patch, and pull back just a little bit. I think that's amazing.
Great.
That is so cool. Whoa, I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. That one was hard to get. They didn't give them out at work, so I had to bug some friends, but
Well, I imagine that that's one of the things is that when you work at Johnson Space Center, and so when cool things come up, everybody's like, "Well, I want one of those." They're like, "Hey, how do I get that?" And
I know.
so,
Well, yeah, it depends. It's weird. It's sometimes like they used to go around and just hand stuff out all the time. I think the budget's been cut a little bit with that, so we don't get cool swag as much as we used to. And it's like they've gone from patches to stickers, but sometimes we'll still get pins.
oh, well, I just found what I'm gonna send you. It's in perfect condition.
Bad, like that's a collectible. You should keep it.
No, that's all right. I've got it. Funny enough, because I was pretty prolific when I was a kid. This is an extra, so I'm going to send you some of my extra ones so that you can have. Because I also have the extra Han Solo to send you, and the extra Luke, and they're all Return of the Jedi's in mint condition.
Oh
So,
my gosh, you don't have
yeah.
to be sweet. That is so sweet.
No, Holly, I am just been thrilled to be able to talk to you and to hear about your experience, and sharing space food with me and your Star Wars, Star Trek. I know Erin is the one who introduced us. She's on and listening to this.
I know, see her. I know. Erin's the best.
And so, and of course, I've been looking forward to eventually meeting you in person. And
Yes. Like
yeah.
once the zombie apocalypse is over and we can bring visitors to JSC again. I can't wait. I'm definitely going to have to do that.
Yeah, definitely. I will definitely road trip out to see you. And just even if I can't get the Johnson Space in there, just to see that room you're sitting in.
The Star Wars room. I know I'm running out of space. No pun
I know.
intended.
I also have the comics from when I was a kid, and they're all kind of like in their little collector thing. So I have a whole set of Star Wars comics that I have too. Yeah.
Yeah, I know those are. Hold on to those.
So I just want to say we went over the 30 minutes because I just enjoyed chatting with you so much. Those of you who've joined in, again, in order, since Holly's in Texas, we got some Texas guacamole we're going to give away for our recipe postcard. And so if you leave a comment, I will pick one lucky winner and send that to you, just for tuning in and, spending some time with us.
Well, hi, Chris. He's my cousin.
And so, but you got to leave a comment. Let us know where you're listening in from so that you can be in the running for that postcard. And so, Holly, is there any last words you want to say or share with us?
May the force be with you.
Always. Yes. I was just thinking about that in my Jedi training. How to just be a better person every day.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you're active on social media, but is there a way for people to follow you?
Yes, you can find me on, I'm mostly Twitter. I'm, oh gosh, this is going to be hard to, Erin can spell it out in the chat if she wants, but it's Absolute Space Girl. Absolute has no E like the vodka, and girl is just GRL. And that's because Twitter limited me in characters. So it's.
Oh, it had nothing to do with liking mixed drinks at all. Not that I would know that about you, but.
No, there's no, not at all.
When it comes, we didn't even get to the question of what would you want to drink in space?
What would I want to drink in space? Oh my gosh, I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know. Something fruity. Yeah, something fruity, because when you're in space and you're in microgravity, it's like your sinuses get all clogged up, and so you kind of and this is why astronauts like spicy things, like for something spicy. And there's actually a NASA. Oh, I should have. I can send you the info, but there's a chili pepper growing challenge to find the spiciest chili pepper, and you can send it off to a NASA scientist, and they're going to study what makes it the spiciest and use it to try to make to better the astronaut food so that they can taste. Yeah, I was on a team, but anyway. So the point is, so your sinuses clog up because no gravity, and so they can't taste things, so they like spicy stuff. So probably something very, very flavorful that I could good mixed drink, like something maybe very sweet, something like that.
Interesting. I like that. And you got me thinking, we got in our garden, we're growing peppers and they grew so well this year. And so we have banana peppers that have just been so tasty. And so thinking about that, and then when you were saying that about the drink, and it being kind of that fruity, what came to mind to me because of the spicy would be something like the tomato cocktail. Why am I blanking on?
No.
With hot sauce, people have what? Say that again.
Mary.
Yes, a Bloody Mary. Do they actually have that on the International Space Station? Do you know?
Alcohol?
No, not with alcohol, but just like a virgin Bloody Mary alcohol. No, not yet. No.
Don't know if they have Bloody Mary mix on the International Space Station.
Because you had that rehydrated mango drink, and so I was wondering if there's a way to make a
juice. They might have tomato juice. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's up to the crew members. They can each pick what they want. So.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I think is really interesting is that thinking about, well, what would you want if they could package it, and why? And so I imagine mac and cheese is one of the things that's has been requested and made.
I honestly don't know.
Yeah. And so
I really don't know. Aaron.
Well, anyways, everybody, thank you again. Aaron put in how to follow you on Twitter, and for everybody that tuned in, and Holly, it's just been so much fun chatting with you. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored that you considered me, especially because I was very worried at first, because I'm like, I don't cook.
No, and that's what's fun about it. And I love how much of a history we have in common, especially with our fathers, our love of aviation and aerospace, and just those kinds of things that encourage women to follow a career and love of space, but then also our love of sci-fi and, of course, amazing women.
Yes.
So thank you. And everybody else, have a great day.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Okay.